Perhaps the text of the provision dooms the government's position, but they do have, and that's a question that we can talk about, but they do have this argument about what Congress had in mind. Suppose that someone during a drug trafficking offense shoots somebody and the person doesn't die. So that's a violation of C, right? And that cannot be made consecutive to the sentence on the drug trafficking offense. It cannot be made concurrent with the sentence on the underlying drug trafficking offense.
Under C.
Under
correct.
C. That's
right.
correct. But then if the person dies and then the charge is under J, the sentence could be made concurrent.
Well, it depends on how it's charged, right? If you're saying that the person was injured, charged under C, convicted under C, then later dies?
No. Dies before the case is tried.
Yeah.
But while the person is lingering in the hospital, the government has potential C conviction, which cannot be made concurrent.
Right.
But if the person dies, then it can be made concurrent. And the government's argument is this makes no sense. Congress couldn't have possibly wanted a result like that. What's your answer to that?
Well, I think the first answer is that the person could be charged with the death penalty, right, potentially for that murder. And so then, number one, the sentence is much more severe, and number two, the whole issue of concurrent or consecutive sentences is irrelevant. So I think that's part of what may have been going on with Congress, is they put this as a separate subsection, realizing that the death penalty was kind of a unique special circumstance. I also think that there are, particularly in the involuntary manslaughter area, and we included a few examples of this in our brief, where you would very much like to have discretion in crimes where there's not much of a mens rea to cause death. But because death was caused, there's probably going to be a fairly high or somewhat higher penalty anyway, and you may not want to run it concurrently or rather consecutively with the gun charge, because you may have somebody in those circumstances who had little to no mens rea in an involuntary manslaughter situation going to jail for 20 or 25 or 30 years. And so there is some of that in there as well. But I think probably the primary concern was adding the death penalty, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense to add a bar on concurrent sentences when you're introducing the death penalty.